Now, what I want to share today, it's important for someone to have a proper leadership mindset for this because there are people, when you call a meeting and you call it a leaders meeting, they want to stay away. And so I'm not surprised that we don't have 200, 500 people on this platform because this kind of things that we're sharing is not for everybody. And that is the simple truth. But I want us to open our hearts. The things I want to share, they might not be new to us. I don't expect them to be new because I know we're all leaders. I also know that we've had one or two sessions on transformational leadership, which is very good for me. So I won't need to dwell on the beginning or the foundation or preambles. I will go straight. And that's what I've made on my slide. Fostering a culture of growth is the main topic. And I've just put transformational leadership on that just so that we know that we're looking from that angle. We're looking from that perspective of transformational leadership. Now, so fostering a culture of growth, now let me start. I will start straight away. I think, Pastor K, I'm speaking for like 40 minutes or 30 minutes.
Yes, 40. You have an hour plus your Q&A.
Okay, fantastic. So, introduction. My introduction is straightforward. We have been speaking about transformational leadership, and it happens actually that I've got a postgraduate degree on leadership, so I have explored some of these things a little bit, and I know how these things interwork. Now, transformational leadership it's just what the name says. That's what I tell people. It's what the name says. It's a leader that is inclined towards transformation. It's as simple as that. Now, it sounds simple, but the question is that leader who is inclined towards transformation must then begin to ask the question, what do I need to achieve the transformation? The leader that is inclined towards transformation must begin to ask question, what do I need to do? How would I, carry out my leadership in a way that it will achieve what I want it to achieve? And one of those ways, and very, very fundamental, is what we're talking about today. I might not be speaking directly with some of these slides, but just for us to get what I'm saying. So on that slide, I say that, we cannot have changes in our present world until more leaders begin to be transformational in their approach. And this has to be a deliberate thing for a leader. Some will call it a leadership approach. Some will even call it a leadership style. There are those who even believe that it's more or less like a leadership theory. But however you say it, I think it's important that for leaders, for us to see the transformation in our societies, the transformation in our organization, the transformation in our team, the transformation even in our families, as simple as that may sound, the transformation, we must be transformational in our approach. And that means we must begin to think, how can I bring transformation? We know that very well, especially as Christians. We know very well that if we are agents of change, and because we're agents of change, talking about transformational leadership, amongst Christian leaders, it's just what we have to talk about. That's what it is. We're agents of change. We are light and salt of the earth. We're agents of change. And because we're agents of change, we're agents of transformation, we need to begin to think like this as a leader. Now, you don't have to be called with a big title and say, oh, that is a transformational leader. And that's why I use the word approach. You don't have, it's not a title. It's something, it's a walking model, it's a walking mindset, and so on and so forth. Now, it's very key what I put there just to put this together, in line with all the other stuff that we've said, because I'm going to, after this slide, I'm moving straight away to fostering a growth culture. So, the changes we need in our society can only be delivered by someone who is interested in leading from the heart. Very, very important. leading from the heart with a vision. Living from the heart with a vision, and also able to give room and space for other people to express themselves. Now, that is very key, because transformational leaders, one of the key things about transformational leaders is that they're not thinking about themselves alone. They're not just thinking about transformation of the organization. They understand that the transformation of the organization can only happen when individuals are transformed. The transformation of the organization can only happen when individuals are transformed. So that's why it says they embrace personal growth, not their own personal growth alone, but the personal growth of everybody in a way that gives birth to creativity and innovation. This is just to add or to emphasize some of the things that we have been saying about transformational leadership. Now, there are things here that I have put in bold just to help me with fostering a growth mindset. And that's it. The person must live from the heart. If a transformational leadership must lead from the heart. If they don't lead from the heart, then they're going to be tired because of the work that needs to be done. If there's no vision, then there's nothing they're working at. But then there are many other things about transformational leadership that we're not focusing today. But I want to emphasize that transformational leadership must give room for individual expression. They must embrace personal growth for themselves and for the individual and employees or followers or whatever language that's more appropriate in our own context. And this is the only way to give birth to creativity and innovation. Now, creativity and innovation are essential in transformational leadership. If we're not innovating anything, if people are not creative, there cannot be transformation. And so the system in place must be able to achieve this. Very, very important. Very, very important. So the transformational leader, therefore, must be able to adhere to principles, to principles, to influence others. They must be able to communicate and do all of those things that we have been learning and we people have been speaking about, and so on and so forth. Now, I've said all of this to say this. One of the major ways that someone can begin to think about all of this or to achieve this result is that a transformational leader must be able to foster, nurture, you understand, develop, enhance a culture of growth in their organization. You see, it's not, there's not even a choice in the matter. There's no choice in the matter. There is no choice in the matter. A transformational leader must be able to create, to nurture, to develop, to foster. To foster, the word foster is very important. It's like fostering children. Is to take care of. Is to nurture. Is to make it work. Is to bring it together. Is to pay attention to it. Is to invest into it. So the transformational leader must be able to foster a culture of growth. And many people struggle with this. And they say they want transformation. They say, oh, we want things to change. We want this to happen. But are they really fostering the culture of growth? And if we're not fostering the culture of growth, we should forget about it. Now, let's start straight away. I like questions. And the first thing I want us to begin to think about right now is this question. Can the transformational leader, get growth into the people's minds? Can that leader get growth into the people's mind? It's very important. It's very important. Now, because when we talk about a culture of growth, it begins with a mindset of growth. And the question I want to ask myself as a leader is, can I even get growth into the people's mind? In other words, in another ways, can the leader set up a system? Can the leader lead in a way that the employees or the people in the organization or in your team, can you lead in a way that brings growth, that ingrains growth in the minds of the people? Can you lead in a way that makes people think, you know what, growth is what I want to do. I'm interested. Can we do it in a way that becomes part of the organization? And that's what, as we're continuing this meeting, I think this question is so important that you should follow the journey this morning with this question at the back of your mind. Can I, as a leader, get growth into the people's mind? I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you the truth. I'm also an African, where Africans, almost all of us on this platform, maybe one or two of us are not, because somebody is from Nepal and so on and so forth. So I understand that. And you know, but maybe many people are from Kenya, South Africa, you know, and so on and so forth. So, and I know. Now, because we're leaders, we need to be realistic. One of the major problems that we're going to have in our leadership, if we want to be genuinely transformational, is that to even get the growth into people's mind, it's hard work. I mean, it's hard work. But the issue is this: if we cannot get the growth into the people's mind, we cannot create a culture of growth. If we cannot create a culture of growth, then we cannot push people to creativity and innovation. And if we cannot get people to creativity and innovation, we cannot have transformation. It's not going to happen. Now, I know this is a Christian meeting, but you know, if you would permit me to just go a little bit out into the business world, and then you think about big companies like Amazon or Apple, and I want to tell you something: the transformation that those people have enjoyed in their own field, if you study, is backed up by high levels of creativity and innovation. Always thinking what other things can be done. Always thinking what next steps can we take. Always thinking about that. It's creativity and innovation. Now, we all talk about the internet. We talk about things like Instagram, this Zoom that we are on right now. The transformation that Zoom has brought into meetings. Wow, 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 wow. But listen carefully to this: creativity and innovation. You can see everyday things are always changing. Things are always changing. Sometimes they tell you need to update. You need to update your software. You need to do this. You need to do that. Because creativity and innovation, they're essential. And that is only possible when you get growth into people's mind. When people know that where we are today is not sufficient for where we need to be tomorrow. That is transform. Where we are today is not sufficient. And that's very important. So the question I want to ask you today, and it's very fundamental as we move on, is that as a leader, can I bring growth into the minds of the people that I lead? Can I bring growth into the minds of the people on my team? Can I even bring growth into the minds of the people in my leadership team? You know, because sometimes, you know, we also work with other leaders that we struggle to even, they can't even see they did growth. They can't even see it. There are people who call themselves leaders. I'm telling you the truth, in the past 1 year, they have not been part of any form of growth or training of their mind. They are not. We know we have many great, in quote, in their own eyes, great in their own eyes, great leaders scattered around our continent of Africa and even maybe the UK and in the US and everywhere in the world, that have no growth mindset at all, not to even talk about giving it to other people. And they wonder why we're not experiencing transformation. So I want to challenge us as we continue this meeting. As a leader, can I get growth into the people's mind? How can I get growth into people's mind? I want to leave that with us. It's a massive challenge. But let me say two things. In order to get growth into people's mind, you must be deliberate about creating a culture of growth. And this is very important. In other words, the leader must be ready to motivate and influence people. Must be deliberate about it. You cannot just say it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. You are a leader because God expects you to lead. And to make assumptions as a leader instead of actually doing the work is an error. It's a massive error. It's a massive error. You have to be deliberate about it. You have to deliberate about it. It doesn't matter how small your team is. Your team might just be your wife and your one child, or even just your wife, or maybe you have a team at work of 5 people, or maybe you're a leader of hundreds of people, or maybe you're a pastor of thousands, or maybe you are a principal in a Bible college, and so on and so forth. Or maybe you are an official in the government. I know many of us here are, we are big people, in government, in education, and all of that. I understand all of that. But listen carefully to this. Are you deliberate about it? The word deliberate, please underline it in your mind. Underline it in your mind. Am I deliberate? Am I consciously involved in this? This is very important. Am I consciously? Do I think about it? Do I breathe this? How involved am I in creating a culture of growth? How in my actions, in everything that I do, and so on and so forth. Very, very important. Can I get growth into people's mind? And the second thing I want to say this also. Growth starts from the leader, but it grows beyond the leader. We're going to get to that very soon. Growth starts with the leader, but grows beyond the leader. So if I want to get growth into the people's mind, it must start with me. It must start with me. Then I know that it starts with me, but it must go beyond me. I must find a way to make sure I've got it, and then make sure that it transcends me as an individual and enters into the mind of other people on my team, in my group, in my organization, and so on and so forth. Very, very important. And then you must make up your mind. Now you're not stopping until a growth mindset runs through the DNA of your organization. In other words, can we call on anybody in your organization that knows that in this organization we like to grow? It's as simple as APC. Can we, anybody, can it just be part of the way they think? Anyone in your organization. And when you get to the level where it runs through the DNA of your organization, that everybody in the organization understands that we all are here to grow. We need it's part of what we do in whatever we do, however we do it, from morning till night, every day of the year. We're thinking growth. We're thinking growth. Once you get it there, we are beginning to work. So, can you, as a leader, get growth into people's mind? Growth mindset is essential. That's what I'm trying to say. A growth mindset is essential. It will affect the way people interpret everything. When they face challenges, it will affect the way they process it. When they have failures, a growth mindset will process failures as opportunities for increase and learning. You see, a growth mindset will do all of that. A growth mindset will let people know that you can always be better than today. You can always be better than today. A growth mindset let people know no matter what we have achieved today in our performance, we can perform better tomorrow. A growth mindset will let people know that if something doesn't work today, we have to learn the lesson so that it will work tomorrow. A growth mindset would tell people, would make people think like, you know what? I might not be able to do it right now, but it doesn't mean I can never do it. I can grow into that. All of these are very, very important. Imagine in our society, if people have a growth mindset in our organization, in our team, people have a growth mindset. I'm telling you the truth. They will begin to learn, to improve, to grow, to become transformed so that they can bring transformation around themselves. Very, very important. We can move on. So this is our topic for today. And not that the things we have been saying are not in line, but let us go straight because of time. Let's go straight to this, and I'll just go through this. So I know the question that we might be asking now is, so how do I foster a culture of growth? And this is the key. How do I foster a culture of growth? Remember from the other slide, can I bring growth into people's mind? How do I foster a culture of growth? Like I said, I like questions because we're leaders and I want us to be reflective. How do I, so that as I'm saying the things that I want to say and you're processing the things that I'm saying, you're also deep within yourself, asking yourself specifically, how can I, as a leader, how can I foster a culture of growth? How can I do it? How can I foster a culture of growth? I think I'll share about, I don't know, I think about six or something with us. And all of these are very important. One is not more important than the other. But depending on your own context and your own environment, you might find out that you need to do one more than the other, or you need to pay attention to one more than the other, depending on who you lead, where you lead, how you lead, the kind of people you lead, what you're leading for. Is it non-profit? Is it profit-oriented? Is it non-profit oriented? Is it a government organization? Is it a personal business? Is it a church, like some of us, and so on and so forth. And let's start. Each of these points I will be sharing with us, I want us to open our heart. And I think I can say on this platform, let the Holy Spirit speak to us. Let the Holy Spirit speak to us. The first thing I want to say, which is a continuation from what I was speaking in the on earlier slide, you must model a growth mindset as a leader. If you want to foster growth, you must model a growth mindset. The leader, it must be clear to the people who follow us that we have a growth mindset. It's not going to be difficult for them to know. I'm telling you the truth, it's not going to be difficult. For instance, let me tell you something. If you're a leader and there's a problem, and then you say to the people, I don't know what to do. I think, we just have to move on to something else and forget about it. Then we know you don't have a growth mindset. If you have a growth mindset, you're going to tell your followers, wow, let's look into this thing. What can we do about it? Can we make this better? What do we need to learn from this? What resources are required to move this to a better place? You must. And it's essential for you as a leader in modeling a growth mindset to let people sometimes know your journey, to let them know sometimes when you are talking, when you're speaking to them, to let them know that you're also growing. You have to be deliberate. Remember what I said before. You have to be deliberate. They need to know you're growing. For instance, if you're a pastor, for instance, on this platform and you're preaching tomorrow, you can tell your congregation, oh, I was in a meeting yesterday and we were learning about how to foster a culture of growth. You know what you have told your congregation? You have told them that even your pastor is still growing. It's as simple as that. But sometimes some of us, maybe it's out of arrogance or maybe it's out of humility, we don't say things like that. Because how can me, general overseer, how can me, managing director, say to my people that, I was in a training and I was learning about how to foster a culture of growth? That's what we're thinking. And we're not thinking about the fact that modeling is so important. So if you want to be a transformational leader, modeling, we're not thinking that to get this growth into people's mind and to foster a growth culture, it's important for the people to see that, our leader is also interested in growth. People grow every time. Every time. There was something I needed to do yesterday with a company. And then they told me one of the solicitors had gone on a training. And they said she's gone on the training for the whole organization concerning some fire stuff and all of that. Because people grow. It's so important. So as a leader, you must be able to teach and train people and show people through your own experiences that you are growing, so that it can have a positive impact on them, so they won't see growth as if growth is for lower people. Because you see, sometimes when leaders talk about growth as if it's for people who are not serious, who are, you people need to grow, you people need to grow, you people need to grow, you people need to grow. And then when you're telling people you people need to grow, what you are telling them is that, I don't need to grow, you need to grow, and then you cannot get into people's mind because you're not modeling it. If it's genuinely important, we see it in you first. If it's genuinely important. So it's very important. Remember this. You know this, that it's often said that everything rises and falls on leadership. And that genuinely affects a lot of things. And that's why modeling is important. I always say this to people. I say it to parents. I say it to every leader in every level. And Avex, I know this to be truth because I know you have been a partaker of this. People do what people see. People, listen to this. People do not follow instructions as much as they copy. Let me quickly go to the Bible. That's why you see, after all said and done, in Ephesians chapter 5, after Paul was trying to say everything that he wanted to say, blah, 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 then he started Ephesians chapter 5 by saying, and that's what I'm actually preaching in our church tomorrow. He said, be imitators of God as their children. Be imitators of God as their children. After, he's trying to say, and now he wanted to go into practicals, the first thing he started from, he told them, he said, imitate God. Paul said the same thing in the book of Corinthians. He said, imitate me as I imitate Christ. Now, that is to tell us something. Modeling is so important. Jesus modeled several times. He washed their feet. He wasn't trying to teach a doctrine. He was trying to teach a principle of life that was so important, and so on and so forth. So modeling is important. People do what people see. People do what people see. It's important. It's the truth. People do what people see. Are we together? Let me see your thumbs up if we're together. People do what people see. Very important. So that's why you need to model a growth mindset. Yeah. Okay. If you want to foster a culture of growth, you must think about trust, responsibility, and empowerment. You can't want me to grow, and you don't trust me. You can't want me to grow. I don't have any responsibility. What am I growing into? What am I growing to do? You can't want me to grow, and there's no level of empowerment. That's. I think that's a cultural problem. You don't want me to grow, but then there's growing to what? There's no trust, there's no responsibility, there's no empowerment, there's nothing for me to do. I don't have any freedom. I can't think. I can't think. Employees and followers must be encouraged to own what they do. They must be allowed to take initiatives and bring their knowledge and expertise to the team. If people are not trusted enough to bring their expertise to the team, why should they grow? It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. If I know when I'm spending my time to grow myself in my personal space, or you tell me go for this training, go. Do you know how many times you will send people for training, or leaders will send people for training, and then when the people come back, they will not even allow them to express the training they have sent them to do with money. They will even give them space to express or to bring to the team what they've learned. Now you want the person to go for another training. They're just going to enjoy your money. Their mind won't be there. Because they just know, we're only doing this training just to fulfill all righteousness. We don't really need it. When we get back, they won't let you talk. You can't do anything about it. You can't change anything. You can't influence anything. They won't listen to your voice. They won't listen to what you're saying. You are just so you see, you are stifling and destroying a growth mindset, and you can't foster a growth culture in organization like that. Trust must be active. It must be mutual. You leaders, you don't expect people to trust your own intelligence and contribution when you distrust and disrespect their own contribution and intelligence. Because listen to this. If you trust me, if you empower me, if I'm responsible, if I know, and you say, Wellington, we're having a meeting next week, and you are going to deliver a paper on what you have done in your department, XYZ. Am I going to develop myself or not? I will develop myself because now you're trusting me to speak. Now you are putting responsibility on me and you have empowered me to stand before the people. Listen carefully. I will do something about it. And then I begin to create that growth mindset in the organization because people know that, you know what? Pastor wants you to grow. Pastor can call on you. Pastor can ask you to do something. Pastor wants you to grow. You'll be listened to. When we have team meetings, our manager will let you speak and so on and so forth. So trust people and allow them to be responsible, give them responsibility and empower them is very, very important. That's the second thing. Yeah, I'll move fast because, yeah. Encourage and value creativity. Encourage and value it. Let me tell you one funny thing. I have said this many times because it's so amazing when I think about it now. I was working with someone many years ago. I think I worked with him 97, 98, 99, 2000, thereabout. And then it was an engineering company. So we were engineers working for this guy who wasn't an engineer, but he had money to set up an engineering company. And you know something that he would say to us? He would say things like, I pay you to work. I don't pay you to think. Very rude. He said, I pay you to work. I don't pay you to think. So we're engineers. We'll go to site, we'll do survey, and then we want to give this guy ideas. That no, it's better to do it like this. If you do it like this will happen. This. And then he would say to an engineer, someone who's not an engineer, he would say to us that I pay you to work, not to think. Now it sounds strange, but how many of us genuinely think that the people under us can be creative and be free to do it and use their intelligence and creativity and bring something to the table? Maybe it's hard for us to accept, but you see, people, when you let them loose, they can be very, very creative. And that's how to foster a culture of growth. When you let people think, when you let people loose, it will surprise you what they can do. We must encourage and value creativity. Value it. So, what do I mean by encourage? Tell people, be free, open your mind, find solutions, be a solution provider, think outside of the box, blah, 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 blah. And when we do that with them, we value creativity. We value it. Say, wow, that's fantastic. That's great. That is wow. That is brilliant. And when we value creativity, everybody is watching. They're watching what we pay attention to. Now they know in our organization that we are paying attention to growth. We're paying attention to creativity. We're not subjecting people and subduing them because they're intelligent. You know, some leaders are even scared of intelligent people. They want them to be suppressed. And that's why that boss told us, I pay you to work. I'm not paying you to think. In other words, don't use your brain. I don't need it. Your brain is too small. Don't use it. Who is going to lose? He is going to lose because the organization will not be able to deploy the intelligence of those people and their creativity. Very, very important. Very, very important. An environment that lacks creativity will lead to lack of morale, and people will not be able to bring their best forward if you don't value and encourage creativity. Very important. So I have a few to share with us how to foster culture of growth. This is key. I know some of us might be expecting this to be number one. And that is, you must pay attention to continuous learning and development. You must pay attention to continuous learning and development. You must pay attention to continuous learning and development. And that's not just by seeing it. You must have systems of training in place. You must train people. You must train people. You must train people. You must train people. It's so important. You must have resources in place in your organization that would allow people to learn and grow. There are pastors that have no form of training whatsoever in their congregation and they're expecting transformation. No form of training. You just go to the church and then they teach whatever they can teach in the Bible that sometimes maybe not it's not even good enough, it's flat. And then after all said and done, they expect people's life to be transformed, they expect the organization to be transformed, they expect the church to be transformed. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not by paying lip service to it. You have to be deliberate about it. There has to be continuous learning and development. It's very important. In an environment that promotes learning, every opportunity to learn will be embraced. Every opportunity. What resources do you have? What systems do you have? How are you really letting people know that learning and development is important? Go to any organization that are experiencing high level of creativity and innovation and transformation, and you will see an organization that pays serious attention to learning and development of individuals. That's why even in the secular, that's why in organizations you hear things like capacity development, you hear professional development, you all of those things, continuous professional development, all of those things, continuous learning and development is essential. And it is the work of the leader to create that culture. Who else will do it? It's the work of the leader to create that culture. It's the work of the leader to create that culture. So let me ask you something. What resources do you have in your organization right now? Right now, what resources, what systems? Any? It doesn't have to be complicated. It might be simple. How often do you train? What do you train? I'm a pastor, and generally in our church, every Sunday morning we train the workers. Every Sunday morning. It might be for 20 minutes. Sometimes it's longer. Somebody is training most Sundays in the morning just to let people grow and to be transformed. And then by the time someone comes to our church by 10 o'clock, maybe if they find some level of excellence and things like that, they might be wondering, wow. No, it's not magic. People are being trained. People are being trained. People are being trained. Rome was not built in a day, we're taught. So it's not just one occasional random training in once in 10 years. No, it's a mindset that you're trying to create. It's a culture you're trying to create, and it has to be continuous. And that's very important. Let's move on. I think I've still got to foster a culture of growth, you must have an environment that supports constructive feedback and open communication. Well, let me talk about England. We always have what we call whistleblowers from time to time in organizations, maybe like hospital or the police and things like that. And the question I always ask myself is this: why do we have whistleblowers? We have whistleblowers because in most places there's no proper system of constructive feedback without victimization, without oppression, without all of that. And so, how do you foster a culture of growth? Then, because it's not possible for people to say their mind, constructive feedback, people are going to be destroyed for every mistake they make. Somebody's going to attack you for everything you get wrong. Somebody's going to deal with you. So, what do people do? They just zip their mouth. Zip their mouth. They don't say anything until everything now gets worse. Then somebody decides to whistleblow. Listen carefully to this. As leaders, it is important that we allow, depending on the organization, it might not be that you need a particular structure, but the mindset is important. Let people know that when they make mistakes, they're not going to be killed for it. And let people understand that communication is open and you are not going to be victimized for saying anything. This is key. Um, When you understand this, then you know learning from failures must be encouraged. Learning from failures must be encouraged. Very, very key. Learning from failures must be encouraged. You must create, the feedback must be welcomed by people and it must be constructive. So, you see, it's a culture. It's a culture where people are relaxed. So we can say, oh, why did you do that? You're not supposed to do that, please. And the person will receive it. Feedback must be, if you really, let me tell you something, how you know that you're beginning to have a serious culture of growth, it's when people are corrected, they don't really get angry. They see it as an opportunity to increase. In a family, when you have a culture of growth in your family, you'll see that when people are corrected, maybe mom corrects dad corrects mom, son corrects dad corrects daughter, whatever it is, you'll see people taking it on board. That means there's a culture of growth in that family. Take it on board and say, all right, you can listen to your daughter. You can listen to your daughter. Your daughter says, no, dad, that's what you used to do when you were in Cameroon and when you were in Nigeria or when you were in this. Now things have changed. You don't do like that. You don't talk like that. You don't deal with people like that. They say, oh, and you learn. It shows that there is a culture of growth in that family or in that team or in that setting. Very, very important. Constructive feedback and open communication, essential, 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 essential. Let me just say two more so that I can move to my final thought for the day. Appreciation, recognition, and motivation. An environment that appreciates people's contribution and celebrates their contributions and recognize when people do things and then motivate them to do more, that organization will grow and will have a culture of growth. When people are celebrated for their contributions, they are more likely to give themselves to growth more. Because now I can see that what I've been growing, I've been growing, I've been growing. Now I've achieved something. And then they say, wow, that's great. You've achieved that. That is fantastic. And listen to this. Listen to this. When we talk about appreciation, do not just appreciate outcomes, appreciate process. Appreciate process, not just outcomes. Because sometimes some people are working very hard. They're working very hard. They're doing their best. They're growing. They're doing something. They're in the process, but they're not there yet. We need to learn to appreciate, recognize, even process, not just outcomes. Obviously, we know that we appreciate outcomes. We know that we celebrate people when they hit a landmark or a milestone. We understand all of that. But what we're saying is things, even process must be appreciated. Very, very important. We must be careful not to destroy the growth mindset we have created in people. So appreciation and recognition is a way to sustain a growth mindset. It helps to sustain a growth mindset, helps to keep a growth mindset, helps to sustain it. So we keep appreciating people, recognizing, motivating, encouraging them to do more, to appreciate what they've done, so that you can boost their morale, increase their desire to put in more effort. So it helps to sustain it. Very, very important. And I think the last thing I'll share on this is this for today, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Collaboration and inclusivity. I'll put it in a simple way. People need to work together. And we need people with diverse backgrounds and cultures to achieve a culture that is global in its appeal. We know that two good heads are better than one. Two heads are better than one. If you want to foster a culture of growth, you must create a system where people are happy to work together. Two are better than one. You see, many times we do not get the reward or the benefit of a team because the system does not encourage collaboration. It's important that everybody in the team be ready to put in something, and let everybody in the team respect the contribution of another person. Very important. Do employers feel that they're part of a working and growing system? It's a question you need to ask yourself. The people you lead, do they feel that they are part of a working system, a growing system? Can your organization in your leadership leverage on the strength and knowledge of individuals to create a collective resource? Can you leverage on this collaboration is so important? Can you do that? Or in your leadership you are still tribalistic. Your leadership you are still tribalistic. You're still biased to a particular culture. I think some people don't have anything to offer. No, you are not a transformational leader. When you're a transformational leader, you're going to look beyond all of that. And you're going to ask yourself question, how can we annex? How can we leverage on the strengths and the knowledge and the capacities of every individual present here? Because we need to be able to draw all of that together for us to be transformed. And that's part of growth mindset. Let the growth mindset even be in joint effort, in collaboration and inclusivity. Create it in our working team. Don't be biased. Everyone, someone has something to give, and it's the work of the leader to be able to leverage on the strengths and the capacities and the knowledge of individuals and to bring that to the table and let everybody know we are in this together. We are doing this together. We need to go to the next level together. This is not an individual thing. We thank God for the individual learning, individual training, individual development. We thank God for all of that. But you know what? We got to do this together so the transformational leader understands collaboration, understands that we need to work together, understands that you need to leverage on the strength of the individuals to create a collective resource, a collective strength that moves the organization forward. Very, very important. So I think, like I said, it's a question. How do you foster a culture of growth? And I've shared 7 points with us. And I'm hoping that as we think deeper on this one, we will find out as a leader, because this is part of growth for me, for you, for all of us. We will be able to, in our own leadership, we're going to ask ourselves question: which one of these do I do? Which one of these do I not do? Or what more can I even do outside of all of these things that Wellington is talking about? And what more can I do? What more can I add? So it's a question you need to ask yourself. Leaders, I want to ask you again: how can you, in your own context, foster a culture of growth? Ask yourself that question. Go and do some work. Look deeply into your environment and ask yourself question. I'll just quickly go through this. Why foster a culture of growth? I've said many things in a line, but let's just put them together about why we need to do it. The benefits. I think sometimes people like to see benefits, and then maybe that will encourage us to do it as a leader. Praise God. Let me just say this. You cannot deliver. You cannot deliver beyond the culture you create. You cannot deliver beyond the culture you create. You can't deliver beyond the culture you create. Very key, very key, very key, very, very important. But let me say 5 things. 5 things right now. This is just my general thought. You cannot deliver beyond the culture you create. I want that to sink in, that your culture carries it. It's like when we talk about, another close topic to this in transformational leadership is how to create a culture of change, which is very similar to this, but it's not exactly the same. But they connect. It's the same. If you want to implement changes in your organization and you don't have a culture of change, you're going to struggle, because people will turn their back on it, because human beings don't like to change. But if you have a culture of change in your organization, you can change things like that. And it will be so easy. It will be so amazing. You're thinking, other people will think, you have already changed that. You have already done this. I thought last year you people were doing it like this, but this year you have changed. And I say, hey, yeah, we have changed. And people will be wondering, how come it's so easy for you? When you have a culture of change, to make changes will not be hard. When you have a culture of excellence. But here we're talking about culture of growth. You cannot deliver beyond the culture you create. So, growth culture will also lead to, so why do we need to foster a culture of growth? A higher performance of individuals. When you have a culture of growth, I'm telling you, you have a higher performance of individuals. Who doesn't want people to perform better? If I'm a transformational leader and I want things to happen, I want everybody on my team. I want everybody to perform better. I want, because when individuals perform better, the organization perform better. You know, the performance of the organization is it's the summation of the performance of its individuals. That's the truth. And that's why you see companies give bonuses to individuals, and companies have targets for individuals, because the performance of the organization, it's just the summation of the performance of every individual in the organization. And that's the truth. That's the truth. So when you have a good culture, your people will perform higher. When you have a good culture, there will be improved employee engagement and commitment. In a culture that supports growth and personal growth and the development of the workers, where you are investing into their life, you're investing into their mind, you are interested in their own life, they'll be, why shouldn't they be engaged? They'll be engaged and be committed. They'll be engaged and be committed. An organization that's not invested no money on you, you've not been through any training, they've not trained you, they've not done anything, you have spending your energy and your everything to grow yourself. Any opportunity you have to run away, you will run away from them. And I will still say that point. Improved employee engagement and commitment, enhance adaptability and competitiveness. If there is no growth, how do you adapt into a changing environment? How do you adapt? As an organization, how do you adapt? Things are changing around you, but you have not grown your mind. You don't know what's going on. The organization is still talking about what they did 25 years ago. No, this is a new year. It's not what you did before. No, things are changing. And a lot of people struggle to evolve and to remain relevant simply because they are not growing. And because they're not growing, they can adapt to changes and they are not competitive. Things are dying now. It happens everywhere. In every organization where there's no growth culture, people don't, adaptability will be hard, competitiveness will be hard. I don't want to see competitiveness as just being in competition. It just means that you will not be able to stand where your mates are standing. That, just say it like that. It's simple. I don't want to go back to the business world, and then if not, we'll begin to ask questions from Nokia, because Nokia was the phone that everybody wanted to use. What happened to Nokia? Nokia didn't have a growth culture about, getting Nokia to the level that the technology was going. They were not quick to make decisions about iOS. They were not quick about all of those things. People were quicker, faster, ready to change, ready to throw things away and get new things. Nokia refused to do it, and they were not adapting. They were not, and now they can't compete. They can't compete. Not because their phone was bad. They had the best, most rugged phones in history. But then phone was moving away from just calling into doing other things. They needed correct iOS. They were not ready to adapt. When their own iOS operating system, operating system, when their own operating system was not good enough, they didn't see any reasons to collaborate and do all of that. They didn't do all of that. And now, see, their competitiveness out of the window. Do you get what I'm trying to say? The same thing will happen to a church. There are churches that are just there, they're not relevant. Nobody wants to go there. People will come to your church after some time. When they get blessed, they leave. And you ask yourself, why is it that every time God bless them, they leave? Because now they have grown past your church. You have nothing to offer them. That's the reason. So when they get blessed, they leave. Not because they don't like you, it's because you don't have anything to give to them. Because you were a blessing to them when they didn't have food to eat. Now they have food to eat. You don't know the next thing to say to them. Because all you were telling them is God will give you food, God will give you food, God will give you food, God will give you food. Now they have food. What else do you have to say? Nothing. They will go to a place where somebody will say, God will do something else. You see, we're not adapting, we're not growing. But as we grow, that's very important. Number 4, stability and low employee turnover. It's very similar to number 2 when I talked about engagement and commitment. Your employees, people who work in your team, your people you work with, your stakeholders, they will be stable and there'll be low employee turnover. We know what employee turnover is really just a rate of, how people leave your organization, generally calculated per year, how people leave your organization. There'll be low employee turnover. And the final thing I want to say, and I really like this. I really, really like this. Maybe this one is not sounding very academic, but I like it. It says healthy working environment. When you have a growth culture, you will have a healthy working environment. Why? Many reasons. Number one, there will not be too many complaints and people feeling bitter when they are corrected. They want to grow. People will know that when somebody makes a mistake, we don't need to kill them over it. Everybody wants to grow. People know that they can go to their team leader, they can go to their manager and ask questions with gladness and they will be answered. Everybody wants to grow. Very, very important. Healthy working environment. Simple conclusion that I have a simple conclusion. The transformational leader understands. Transformational leaders understand the importance of personal fulfillment. They have accepted the responsibility of using their own abilities and experiences and knowledge to create an environment that makes innovation, growth, and success possible. This cannot be achieved without deliberately creating a growth culture. This cannot be achieved without deliberately creating a growth culture. It cannot. It cannot. It cannot be achieved without deliberately creating a growth culture. I always tell people there is no volume of knowledge that changes anybody's life. Knowledge is power. What do you use power for? Power to do. There's no volume of knowledge that transforms. The question I want to ask us is where are you starting from? From all the things I've said. And thanks for giving me your time. You are blessed. Thank you very, very much.